Thanks for joining us on the program tonight. Our sign language interpreter is William Silla. Kenya's opposition leaders have opened a mobile money transfer account to raise funds to pay striking teachers. Their leader, Raila Odinga, is now urging Kenyans to contribute. Raila and other CORD leaders spoke at a public rally held in Nairobi to show solidarity with teachers in Kenyan public schools who have boycotted classes to push for a pay rise.
Despite waiting for hours, the crowd was charged. Arriving at Uhuru Park in numbers, they waited patiently to get the opposition's address on the ongoing teachers' strike. It was a grand arrival when the CORD leaders came in, dressed in school uniforms, saying they represented school children who for 4 weeks now have not been attending school. The opposition leaders who held the rally to support teachers in their agitation for pay rise had no kind words for the government. They particularly faulted for not complying with the court order to issue the 50 to 60% pay rise.
Uhuru himself is the product of the court orders. Unakumbuka hayati Mutula Kilonzo? Unakumbuka Mutula Kilonzo? Mutula alisema Uhuru na Ruto hawastahili kusimama kama viongozi wa taifa. Wakaenda kotini, majaji watano wakakaa, wakawapatia ruksa ya kusimama. Hiyo ni court product, sio court product. Kama wewe unasema hakuna pesa, sisi tunakwambia punguza ufisadi ndani ya serikali, ulipe walimu. Ukiendelea na ufisadi, sisi tutaendelea kukuhimiza uendelee kulipa walimu wa taifa letu la Kenya.
Our courts must be respected. If the court confirmed you in the presidency, respect the teachers' award.
On this basis, the CORD leaders maintain that President Uhuru Kenyatta is not fit for the highest office in the land.
I want to announce that I've already filed the motion to impeach the President of the Republic of Kenya, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Watu wote walisaidia Uhuru, wote wanalia, sindio? Ngilo wanalia mali. Kazungu Kapi analia mali. Mbezi Samia analia mali. Wazazi wanalia mali. Kila mtu ambaye amesaidia Uhuru analia, sindio? Nilikuwa ninangojea 2017. Nilikuwa nangoja 2017 tumuondoe Uhuru. Lakini najiuliza, ukingoja mpaka 2017, hii miaka miwili imebaki, watoto wa maskini watakuwa wapi? Mzee Moi alitupatia maziwa ya Nyayo. Mzee Kibaki akatupatia masomo ya bure. Kijana Uhuru amefunga mashule yote, akafukuza walimu wote na watoto wote wako nyumbani. Kila mtu ako na nishati yake.
Critics have been challenging the opposition to bring up proposals to the teachers' pay standoff rather than merely critiquing the government. Today's rally offered the platform for such proposals.
Wao wangekuwa serikali halali, kwa sasa wawekezaji kutoka nchi za ng'ambo through foreign direct investment wangekuwa uchumi wa Kenya hii umekuwa haraka zaidi. Lakini haukui, hata mnaona vile mambo ya tourism, utalii wetu umefifia, umezorota, na kwa kweli hawana hizi pesa. Lakini tutasema hivi, pesa ziko, na pesa hizo hazitatokana na ile kusema
But the grand master plan by the opposition was saved for last, declared by CORD leader Raila Odinga himself.
Sisi sasa tumeamua kuanzia leo tunafungua account ya solidarity ya walimu. Sasa wale ambao tunataka kila Mkenya alipe pesa huko ndani. Sasa kila Mkenya atoe, unaweza kwa SMS $50 kwa hiyo account. Sasa
it is a move that has received sharp negative criticism from Kenyans, with many on social media stating that the rally failed to give reasonable proposals. If you can't pay and you won't pay, then you should go. That was a resounding message at the rally, with CORD leaders pledging to move the impeachment motion to the very end. Question is, just how much of a solution did they actually put on the table? Sharmamani, KTN News at Uhuru Park, Nairobi.
All right, and so our big question tonight is in regards to that proposal at the CORD Teachers Rally, actually something they put into action. We're asking you if you support the opposition's bid to raise funds for the teachers. Do you support the opposition's bid to raise funds for the teachers? Have, of course, set up an M-Pesa line to which they're asking Kenyans to make contributions to pay the teachers. Do you support the opposition's bid to raise funds for the teachers? SMSs 22155 at KTN News and at Yvonne Okwara. The hashtag we're using tonight is KTN Prime. We'd love to hear from you. So members of parliament in the ruling Jubilee coalition have been quick to rubbish the opposition's accusations. They dismissed the Uhuru Park rally as a product of self-seeking politicians struggling to remain relevant ahead of the 2017 elections.
We want to tell Mudhama, we want and we expect, we demand that he behaves his age. We want to tell him, as a man of his age, should know what to talk in public and what not to talk. What kind of a role model is he to our children if he can dare talk in such a public rally with all the media, national media, and he irresponsibly talks and describes women of this country.
Ikifikia kesho, Mheshimiwa Muthama, Mheshimiwa Halwale na Mheshimiwa Hassan wa Mombasa, ningetaka nione wakishukuliwa hatua za kisheria. Manake yale maneno ambayo wameongea leo ni kana kwamba wako na njama ya kuipindua serikali hii, na sisi kama Wakenya ambao walishagua rais na tukashagua serikali ambao tunajua ni serikali tukufu na imechaguliwa kihalali, sisi tutasimama kidete kutetea serikali hii, kutetea rais, na tutasimama na yeye.
Whatever happened today, they said that we have a pay bill number so that we can correct money for teachers. Is it going to happen like what happened to Morasis? After the money is corrected, then it end up with one person, at the pocket of one person. If they want to offer solution, they need to come with structures, proper structures to address the issues to address in there. But from what we have seen today, there is no solution they want to offer. They just went to Uhuru Park to insult.
In this country, we want to demand respect for women. They need to give us apology for the way they talked. But we are not ready to see them abusing our head of state. This country is free country. And we know even when Obama came here, he said the government was elected during the day. Why are they fighting now? Why are they hiding themselves? And we know what they have done.
Can the government really afford to pay teachers, or is the country's wage bill too high? Opposition leader Raila Odinga says President Uhuru Kenyatta, in his State of the Nation address on Sunday, gave erroneous figures to justify why the government cannot pay the teachers. Raila insists that the government can afford to pay teachers. So who exactly has the right figures?
4 weeks into the teacher strike, and teachers have vowed not to go back to class until the government effects their 50 to 60% pay rise ordered by the courts. The government has remained adamant that it cannot afford to pay and will not pay teachers. The opposition, on the other hand, insists that the government can pay and should pay teachers.
Our wage bill would therefore rise from 52% to 61%. We have the money to please protecting corruption and wastage.
On Sunday night, during a State of the Nation address, President Uhuru Kenyatta laid out figures to illustrate why the government cannot afford to pay teachers. On Wednesday afternoon, during the Uhuru Park rally in support of teachers, opposition leader Raila Odinga too put forward figures justifying why teachers should earn some extra cash.
Our public wage bill accounts for 52% of revenue. Our public wage bill is only 32% of the revenue.
So how much of the just over 1.1 trillion shillings collected in revenue last year went to paying wages?
Kenya shillings 568 billion went to pay our wages. A total of 370 billion.
Does the wage bill conform to the global average for middle-income countries?
The public wage bill accounts for more than 10% of our gross domestic product, well above the middle-income country average.
Where did President Uhuru get 568 billion wage bill that he gave in his statement?
The government says it has weighed various options in the search for money for teachers, and none of them are tenable. The opposition says the government has not explored all the options.
We would have had to raise VAT from the current 16% to 22%. Or alternatively, borrow money or suspend critical development programs and essential services.
This year, national government's development budget is for infrastructure only 350 billion. According to the World Bank, not Raila. Because of the World Bank assessment, half of this money, that's 125 billion, will go to corruption and waste. We have the money.
Uhuru Kenyatta had his figures figured out, but so does Raila Odinga.
In this financial year, Kenya shillings 174 billion was set aside to pay teachers, up from Kenya shillings 139 billion the previous year. If the award were paid, we would have had to find an additional Kenya shillings 118 billion to meet the salary and pension obligations of the award.
Published budget for the government wage bill for the current financial year is 329 billion out of our current budget of PSC 987 billion and a total budget of 1.8 trillion. This works out at 33% of recurrent and 17.5% the total budget and 26% of the revenue.
So who has their figures right, or who is telling the truth? It is now down to a game of numbers between the government and the opposition, as Uhuru Kenyatta's administration deals with what has proved a headache for successive governments. Rita Tinina, KTN News.
And we're keeping our eye on the issue of education and the teachers' pay stalemate. Bishops of the Catholic Church say they are ready to mediate between teachers and the government over the ongoing pay dispute. The chairman of the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, Reverend Philip Anyolo, asked the teachers' unions, the Teachers' Service Commission and the government to drop their hardline positions and embrace dialogue.
The hardline positions taken by both the Teachers' Service Commission and the teachers' unions are regrettable and set a bad example as role models of our children. The Teachers' Service Commission and the teachers' unions accept involvement of an independent mediator to facilitate discussions leading to a lasting solution to the strike.
So we want to take you back to the year 1998. At that time, Kenya's education minister was Kalonzo Musyoka, when the government was grappling with yet another teachers' strike that had paralyzed the sector. The government then refused to pay the teachers, citing challenges with the economy. I'm sure that rings a bell, doesn't it? Well, it appears that the teachers' pay saga has now gone full circle.
To disorder and unequal pay.
It is a stance that has angered the opposition and stunned teachers.
If the award were paid to teachers, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission would have no choice and would be forced to harmonize wages across the entire public sector. And based on last year's tax revenue, our wage bill would therefore rise from 52% to 61% of all revenues collected.
Yet Uhuru's statement appears to have been taken right from the classical response book that the government has used for nearly 20 years. Flashback 1998, the first major strike after the now famous deal was agreed to. The teachers were demanding not 50 to 60%, but a whopping 150 to 200% pay raise. The education minister at the time, Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka.
Now, please understand that the situation as it is extremely difficult, and it's just not possible to pay a penny extra.
Almost 2 decades on, the man who is now a key opposition leader is at pains to explain his current stand as the country grapples with yet another teachers' boycott.
Walimu walifanya strike, alafu akaja pale Njogoo House, na mimi wakati huo nilikuwa nimejifunza diplomasia. Nikasema, our teachers, this is our problem. We will swim or sink together. Wakaniambia walimu zamani zile, minister with baby face, sink with canoe and not with teachers.
Analysts say the country is in somewhat similar position to what it was back then. Nurses, bankers and postal workers had either gone on strike or threatened to walk off the job. Casual laborers, farmers and university students staged protests to press for better pay, grants and working conditions. But there was one more similarity: wanton corruption in the public sector that at the time had driven away donor support and a high rate of unemployment. Then came the teachers' strike just before commencement of national examinations.
At the moment, I'm sorry, we're not able to offer anything. I was the first person to suggest, please let us postpone this thing. And if our teachers want to be patriotic, they can discuss in terms of postponement of implementation. They are not willing even to listen to that.
Kalonzo Musyoka now stands as one of the symbols of the contradictions that continue to dog the politics of the teachers' strike. President Uhuru Kenyatta himself has been accused of double standards, having so easily found the 1.4 billion shillings to pay fictitious companies in the Anglo leasing scandal without recourse to Parliament and the budgeting process.
Vile vile tumesema hapo ya kwamba kuna pesa ya kutosha kulipa walimu. Pesa mingi inaenda kwa njia ya ufisadi, pale ambaye wanachukua pesa mingi zaidi.
But with no solution in sight, it appears the question of the teachers' strike will continue to provide fodder for both sides of the divide, with the truth constantly getting lost in the politics. Samugina, KTN News.
Back in 1998 and now in the year 2015, a big question remains: do you support the opposition's bid to raise funds for the teachers? Do you support the opposition's bid to raise funds for the teachers? 22155 is our SMS number. At KTN News is our Twitter handle. Joshua Keitani says yes, CORD or COA teachers. Patrick Munubi says donations will not be used to pay teachers. At I_Wafula says nilipe tax na niongeze hii payment ya CORD. No. At C Cafe Girl, remaining on the fence, I will not refute or agree, but is the solution sustainable? Keep your thoughts coming in at KTN News, at Yvonne Okwara. We're taking a short break, but here's what we have still to come on KTN Prime. Thanks for staying with us on KTN Prime. Now, Rwanda's Supreme Court has begun hearing a request from an opposition party seeking to stop President Paul Kagame from running for a third term. The Green Democratic Party wants the court to declare null and void a commission set to review the country's constitution. The 7-member commission was appointed earlier in the month after both houses of parliament passed a resolution to amend the constitution. In July, lawmakers toured various parts of the country to gather public opinions after the parliamentary vote. Over 3.7 million people, that's more than 60% of the voters, have signed a petition calling for a change to the constitution. The opposition party is vowing to fight that move.
The Constitution itself is clear, and Article 101 of the Constitution is very clear. It says that under no circumstances shall a person hold the office of the President for more than 2 terms. The Supreme Court should order immediately that the people who want to change the Constitution to stop, and especially the new commission which was put here to review the Constitution. We think that they can do something else but not touch issue concerning the term limits.
Good news coming out of Egypt. The president there has pardoned 2 of the 3 Al Jazeera TV journalists convicted of broadcasting false news. A presidential spokesman said Canadian Mohamed Fahmy and Egyptian Baher Mohamed were on a list of 100 prisoners to be released later. State media said a 3rd person from the case was also pardoned, but it is not yet clear if this is Australian Peter Grester, who was deported in February. They were sentenced to 3 years in prison last month after a trial. Prosecutors accused them of collaborating with the outlawed Muslim Brotherhood after the overthrow of President Mohamed Morsi by the military in 2013. The journalists denied the allegation and said they were simply reporting the news. Legal experts said the charges were unfounded and politically motivated. Fahmy renounced his Egyptian citizenship to qualify for deportation in February and is expected to leave for Canada immediately he is released. We want to take a short break right now on KTN Prime, because after the break, Abby Agina has all the day's business news for you. You're watching KTN Prime. Don't go too far.
Welcome back. You're watching KTN Prime. Time to take a look at some of the top stories making headlines in the business world. My name is Abby Agina. The debate about the cost of devolution has hinged on how much shareable revenue can be disbursed to counties. But today the state turned the debate on its head as it sought ways to avail more revenue to the counties without having to distribute more of the national pie. Adelaide Changole tells us how this perfect and symbiotic balance will be hit.
It is the hallmark of the country's new constitutional dispensation, predicted to be the key to unlocking Kenya's nascent economic potential.
The World Bank recently stated that devolution in Kenya is not only the most ambitious, but also one of the fastest in the world.
However, the financial requirements needed to actualize the dream, combined with counties' low revenue generation abilities, have become a yoke on the national government.
We know about 90% of our revenues financing of the counties comes from the center.
The shareable revenues disbursed to counties can barely meet the deep funding requirements of counties, forcing the counties to limit services, sometimes at the expense of development. But now the state is in the process of formulating laws that will facilitate the generation of own revenue within the country's 47 counties in a bid to win their reliance on the national government and boost the quality and quantity of services in the counties.
Cash transfers from the national government to counties will remain an important feature of Kenya's fiscal system for a long time. However, an over-reliance will weaken the county's motivation to improve on-source revenue. This was the same fate that befell our defunct local authorities. Let us avoid going back there.
There will be more accountability if actually county governments raises their own revenues through taxes, because that's what the citizen will be demanding services commensurate to what they pay at the county level.
The state is hoping counties can utilize technology, which it says has been instrumental in boosting the attractiveness of certain counties in the country. But county governments are taking issue with the formulation of current tax legislation, saying it encourages double taxation at the national and the county levels.
Under the F Act, there is commodity tax, where the sugar farmers are taxed under commodity tax. And within that commodity tax, there is a portion that is supposed to go for infrastructure development. At the same time, at the county government, we also impose cess tax, which is also supposed to go for infrastructure development. And that's the harmonization that we require.
They are now calling for the development of a national legal framework that will govern how revenue generated in counties is shared among the two levels of government. Adelaide Changole, KTN Business.
Indeed, an unending debate there around devolution and funding the counties. Moving on, mid-tier lender Family Bank has secured regulatory approval to raise 10 billion shillings through a multi-currency medium-term note. The approval paves the way for the bank to raise additional capital to support its strategic growth plans in its quest to break into Tier 1 banks. The notes will be issued in tranches, with the first tranche expected to be launched in October. Family Bank, which was ranked 16th out of the 45 commercial banks by assets, plans to use the funds to boost its core capital and invest in new information technology systems. Family Bank grew its net profits 35% in the first half of the year to 1.1 billion shillings from 875 million shillings a year earlier. The bank, which currently has 1.6 million customers, is betting on the expansion of its branch network to further reach more customers across the country. Family Bank successfully raised 3 billion shillings from shareholders in December last year. The lender appointed FIDA Investment Bank and NIC Capital as the lead advisors and placing agents. Family Bank's assets now total 75 billion shillings. And as you know, every Wednesday we bring to you their adventurer, and on this week's adventurer, KTN Charles Kitonga speaks to an entrepreneur who is using technology to solve Kenya's long-standing problem of trading counterfeit goods. Take a look.
One of the greatest fears of any consumer is to buy a product that is either fake or substandard, and that is a common occurrence in the Kenyan economy. But one entrepreneur is determined to use mobile technology to solve this by making sure that consumers can verify whether goods are genuine or fake before they spend their money on them.
My name is Haron Mudomi. I'm the CEO of Recheck. I'm a businessman, and I like innovation, and I think this is one reason that I'm here. Recheck is a point of sale technology that seeks to address the issue of counterfeit. Counterfeit is nothing but people making use of other people's brand. That is, people hiding on other people's brand that are more popular to sell what they are selling, whatever quality they have. So Recheck seeks to address that by helping the consumer to tell the difference between what is original and what is not.
So tell us how much you invested while you are starting Recheck.
Most of the fund came from the owners of these brands, because after explaining the reason why we are not getting customers in Africa, some of the companies were generous enough to help me be able to raise this money so that I can be able to have a technology in place that is going to unlock billions of dollars for their brands. So most of this money, which is close to $100,000, came from these companies in Asia. Every company, every owner of the brand that we have spoken to liking the solution, are very happy, and are ready to take it. Of course, there are issues that will create delay, and we can mention like not being conversant with something new. There is always that buying of time to see what happens. But there is also another issue of actually brands not wanting to be seen as counterfeited. Because the moment you say you're protecting counterfeit, you're actually saying in another word that we are already in a problem. So this is something that I've seen a lot of companies being cautious about.
Do you see this as a good solution, and are you able to work with the authorities that they are to fight counterfeit?
Yeah, we are working closely with ACA because finally, after we have been able to roll out this, they are the people who are going to benefit from the same. So we are working with them, we are working with every other body that is charged with the mandate of fighting this vice, counterfeit or even piracy. We are working with the PPB, we are working with the Kenya Corporate Board, ACA, we are working with them. KEBS are aware of what we are doing, although they are doing something different because they are engaged on quality assurance. Some of them may not be able to take it on board like they use it, but they can be able to work with us and be able to have their work easier.
And what are some of the challenges in this kind of business?
Yeah, I think the most prominent challenge that we are facing is a common challenge that all innovators will face, is that people don't take technology or innovation quite fast. I say ought to. Why did I say ought to? Because every single day you postpone taking this technology, you continue to lose. A company that is losing 100 million because of counterfeit, you can be able to calculate how much they are losing single day, every single day.
Now, it is estimated that the country is losing more than 70 billion shillings every year to counterfeit trade, and as war against this practice continues, it will take perhaps such kind of innovation to win. Charles Gitonga for The Adventure.
Interesting application there. We do hope that he managed to convince the government when it comes to adopting it. Well, before we wrap up KTN Business, we want to take a quick look at how the money markets performed in today's financial report. Well, from the financial market reports, we now want to shift gears a bit. And Yvonne, what's happening across the borders in Tanzania?
Well, a lot, Abby, and as you know, we have our team there taking a look at the campaigns and what's going on there. And you know about the polls that were released yesterday. A cross-section of politicians have welcomed the results of the opinion polls that placed Tanzania ruling party's presidential candidate, Dr. John Magufuli, in the lead over the opposition coalition's candidate, Edward Lowassa. The poll results released yesterday gave Dr. Magufuli a huge lead of 65% over Lowassa's 25%.
Lakini ardhi hiyo serikali ya Chama cha Mapinduzi inawalipa wananchi wake laki 4 kwa ekari moja, wakati maeneo mengine wanalipa mamilioni ya shilingi.
The opposition coalition, Ukawa, led by presidential flag bearer Edward Lowassa, stepped up their efforts to win the support of southern Tanzania, campaigning in Mtwara and Kagera province.
Lakini la msingi ni kuhakikisha mali hii, mafuta haya, gesi hii inamfaidi mtu wa Mtwara na mtu wa Tanzania kuliko mtu wa nje. Mwenyezi Mungu ametupatia baraka, kwa hiyo tuitumie wote, kila mtu afaidi. Ndio hapo hapo.
Kagera province has commercially viable natural gas deposit, and Ukawa made promises over the region's economic potential.
Nalifahamu tatizo la gesi. Serikali yangu itakapoingia madarakani itaita mikataba yote ya gesi na mafuta. Tutaunda tume, kwa Kiingereza inaitwa ombudsman, ambayo itachunguza, je, Mtanzania amepata haki katika mkataba huu? Je, mzungu ameondoka na kiasi kidogo au kiasi kikubwa? Kama ni kikubwa tuzuie, kama ni ndogo tuweke sawa sawa.
The Ukawa campaign team is expected to shift its attention towards the north of the country to Arusha, which is Lowassa's home turf, for the next few days. Meanwhile, CCM has also joined the debate on Toyota East Africa's opinion poll results. Addressing the press at Dar es Salaam CCM branch office, former presidential hopeful and a key member of the CCM campaign hierarchy, January Makamba, was confident of his party's performance.
Hatukushangazwa na matokeo ya utafiti huu kwa sababu zifuatazo, sababu 5 kubwa.
Ya kwanza, siku Ukawa walipomteua mgombea wao, ndipo siku sisi katika CCM tulipopata faraja kwamba ushindi wetu ni dhahiri.
The CCM campaign troops have been traversing the north of the country in a recharged vote hunting exercise.
Nitoe taarifa fupi tu ya mwenendo wa kampeni za mgombea wetu Dr. John Pombe Magufuli, lakini pia na mgombea mwenza Samia Suluhu Hassan wanaendelea vizuri. Kwa sasa kila mmoja anafanya takriban mikutano 8 hadi 11 kwa siku.
Makamba also confirmed Magufuli's participation in the forthcoming presidential debate, putting to bed talk of CCM not taking part, but they have conditions.
Mdahalo huu uwashirikishe wagombea wenyewe na sio wawakilishi wao. 3, wagombea wote hasa wa vyama vikuu wawepo na washiriki.
At the same time, the ACT Mapinduzi Party, which will be fielding the only female presidential candidate, Anna Mghwira, has also said that it has no qualms with Toweza's opinion poll.
Kama wamefanya wakampa mgombea urais wa CCM 2%, mzee Lowassa wamempa 0%, inaonyesha wazi kwamba ndani ya hayo makundi mawili hawakupata mtu anayemhitaji kwa ajili ya uadilifu.
The presidential opinion poll results released by Toweza East Africa have continued to elicit mixed reactions from various political players on the campaign trail. However, even from those supporting the opinion poll results, the message is clear. They are demanding for more and regular opinion polls in the run-up to the elections, something that is not permitted by Tanzanian law. Ben Kitili, KTN News, Dar es Salaam, Tanzania.
And it's now time for the sports news. Former Football Kenya Federation Vice Chair Sami Shale is gunning for the top seat in the forthcoming FKF elections. Shale, who had been suspended by the Federation, was reinstated and will be contesting for the top seat in a crowded lineup that includes Nick Mwendwa and the incumbent Sam Nyamweya. He was fronting Gor Semelango earlier, but they have parted ways and believes he has what it takes to lead Kenyan football.
The marriage between Gor Semelango and Sami Shale is over. Shale has thrown his weight in the ring and will be eyeing the chairman's seat in the forthcoming elections.
I have been fighting for Kenya football ever since I stepped into FKF office, and I would think I am the best candidate.
He unveiled his candidature on Wednesday, flanked by former internationals Dan Shikand and Eric Obura. He insists that they had to part ways with Semelango after his suspension was lifted by FKF.
He never endorsed Gor Semelango. The idea was that since I was serving my 6-year suspension, it was only fair that we had somebody, to front, just in case my suspension would not be lifted.
And on candidates that have been locked out of the elections by the Federation,
any Kenyan, as long as you are Kenyan, then you're free to vie for any position in any institution in this country. So I mean, it is very wrong for anyone, one person that feels insecure to lock people like Gor Semelango out, and somebody like Lule, who is respected in this country.
They hope the November elections will be free and fair, and want the Federation to ensure that there is a level playing ground.
We have several things we've planned in the event that the elections are not going to be free and fair. Amongst them is, of course, the legal way.
The process must be right. I mean, you will not be elected by teams which don't exist, and you come to manage teams which exist. That is what we are saying now.
Shale's team wants the running mate to come from outside Nairobi. FKF elections are scheduled for November the 13th. Hassan Juma, KTN Sports.
The national sevens women's team, the Kenya Lionesses, are confident of bagging a slot in the Rio Olympics when they take part in the African qualifiers in Johannesburg this weekend. Only one Olympics ticket will be up for grabs in the 12-team African qualifier.
Just as their male counterparts, the national women's sevens team, the Kenya Lionesses, are determined to be part of history by qualifying for the Olympics as the sport makes its Olympics debut at the Rio de Janeiro Olympics next year.
Very important for the Kenya Lionesses, because if we qualify, number one, these girls will become Olympians, and their lives will change, and the game will take a different level in terms of growth and participation countrywide.
It will be a chance for us to showcase our game in Rio, so the qualifiers is very important to us. We must qualify.
The Lionesses are among 12 African teams taking part in this weekend's Continental Olympics qualifiers in Johannesburg, South Africa. The team that has been under rigorous training under coach Mike Samia understands the uphill task they face this weekend.
There's no pressure whatsoever, because all this boils down to preparation. We put the girls into high performance training, and we've done our best, and I hope to post a good result down in Johannesburg.
All the teams are aiming for one thing, that is to qualify. So we wouldn't say that our pool is the easiest pool. We are going to meet tougher teams, I'd say, because all the teams have trained.
Ready.
Kenya is seated top of Group B alongside Botswana, Senegal, Madagascar and Tunisia, while South Africa, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Uganda and Namibia will battle in Pool A.
We are going to do our thing. There's no turning back for it. We know Tunisia is there. Tunisia and South Africa are the most threatening teams in the qualifiers.
Only one change has been made to the team that took part in the 7th World Series qualifiers, with the whole team remaining upbeat despite numerous challenges.
The girls also have put in so much of their time, so much sacrifices, and also the technical team has put in a wonderful spirited fight to prepare these girls in terms of sacrifices.
The team arrives in Joburg just a day before, with no time to acclimatize as compared to most of the teams that have camped in South Africa ahead of the qualifiers, with the rugby union blaming lack of funds for the shortcoming.
And it's purely a financial decision. I'd love to give it another reason, but it's purely a financial reason, and it's because the women still don't have their own main sponsor, and Kenya Rugby Union, I would say, has had better days, certainly not in the last few days.
12 teams drawn from the African continent will this weekend converge in Johannesburg, South Africa for the Olympic qualifiers, where the Kenya Lionesses hope to be the team that bagged just that one slot that is available for next year's Olympics in Rio de Janeiro. Lynn Washira, KTN Sports.
Mediation with more Team Do.
No longer, because I bought Mortein Doom Power Guard, which kills 100% mosquitoes. Mortein Doom Power Guard kills 100% mosquitoes.
So it asked you tonight whether you support that move by the opposition coalition CORD to set up an M-Pesa number where you can contribute towards paying the teachers and perhaps ending the teachers' pay stalemate. And the results are in almost deadlock tonight, actually. 51% of you say yes, 49% say no. An SMS from Beryl Muronji from Kakamega. You say yes, as students we're really suffering. We may go back to school blank again, and teachers also need the money. At Naiba KE on Twitter, you say yes, but how sure are we that it's going to work? Rose in Kakamega says, will this be a continuous process because teachers need money monthly? CORD is looking for vote mercies from teachers. We've had so many strikes when these CORD people were in office. You don't leave your name, but you say yes. We only need each of the 60 million Kenyans to contribute 288 shillings a year to get the 17 billion required now that the government can't pay. Your mathematics might be a little bit off by, say, 15 million. The population of Kenya has not reached 60 million, but those are your views. Thank you for sending them in, and thanks for watching KTN Prime tonight. We leave you with Jeff Koinange live, and it's Mortal Kombat again tonight. If you've been on Twitter, then you know of the big tweet that's been going on. between Gunjiri Wambugu and Robert Alai. So, of course, the fire extinguishers are out. Jeff Koinange Live is up next on KTN News, channel 274 on DSTV, GoTV 94 and Zuku channel 14. Thanks for watching our bulletin tonight. I'm Yvonne Okwara Matole.